Hello, how are you? Let's start with the information. A very intense day for Mexico today, February 22nd. Well, there are movements, an important operation, the Mexican army. Let's talk about that. What's happening? What are the consequences for the country at this moment? A matter that draws a lot of attention at a global level. Also, what's happening with Iran? The United States itself claims that Iran would be 1 week away from having uranium ready for a nuclear weapon. Let's go to the details of what's happening around the world. Thank you very much for joining us. And as you join the live stream, please share, please give it a like. Greetings to the community that's joining. I see Marcela Balmerea. Greetings, Balmerea. Greetings, great Tomisa. How have you been? Thanks to the whole community that's subscribed. Blanca Marcelo, how have you been? A big greeting. Well, let's get started. Let's start with the information. What's happening? Let's go to the details. Subscribe and give it a like. First, let's start with this and these images that are circulating right now from the Guadalajara airport. According to reports, different areas of the Guadalajara International Airport have been evacuated where presence has been reported. Just imagine the presence of armed groups. This is happening at an airport which is part of what will welcome World Cup tourists, right? Guadalajara, Mexico City, Monterrey, those are the three states, right, that will host the World Cup in the country. What's going on? Well, there's obviously some chaos because it's known that there are armed groups there. What's going on? Some people were saying there was a supposed takeover of the airport. Well, I don't know if it's really like that, but obviously we'll be paying attention to the information. This is something that's developing and, well, we'll keep commenting as more information comes in. First, let's get into the details of what's happening. 9 states in the country, 9 states with blockades. This has already, well, become a huge issue. Obviously, look, this would probably be the most important move the Mexican government has made against organized crime. There's already speculation about whether the United States is involved or not, and most likely they are. Most likely they are, right? But this, well, at least as far as confirmation goes, hasn't come from the United States. We'll see later if the United States reacts. But this would probably be the most important organized movement of the past year on a global level, not just locally, because this is more important from the perspective of the trafficking issue. Yes, because they'll say, well, what about Maduro? Yes, but with Maduro, we know it was also a political issue, right? I mean, whether they remove Maduro or put Maduro in, the trafficking issue remains the same. Yes, but regarding the confirmation that the leader of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, known as El Mencho, has been killed, yes, he's a figure and it's a cartel that has been expanding throughout the country, but also operates in Asia and Europe. Well, obviously here in America, in different places, not just in Mexico. And these kinds of reactions are tremendous, aren't they? Something like that. Today you could see this image in Reforma. When we saw blockades everywhere, we wondered, what's going on? Something big must be happening, right? Reforma was the first media outlet, at least that I saw, that commented on and confirmed this. And it's a major operation, a tremendous army operation, in which there have been all kinds of reactions. In Tapalpa, Jalisco, where this occurred, the following was heard. Let's show the image. Thank you. According to the account of Military and Navy Special Forces on Twitter, they started showing this image where these helicopters could be seen. Up there, I don't know if you can see it. What? You can hear gunshots there, and after that helicopter, another one comes behind it, another military helicopter from the state of Mexico. Let me know if it's from the United States. As far as we know, it's not, but it is from Mexico. 2, Because of the kind of colors the Navy uses, I think they're from the Navy, but I insist. I don't know, that would have to be confirmed later. Then another helicopter passes by, also behind the first one I showed, and you can also hear gunshots. I don't know if the shots are coming from the helicopter downwards or from the ground upwards over there in the distance. I don't know if you can see the image. You can see smoke coming out. I want to assume that they were possibly shooting at that sign. Now, other reports show. Let's see if we can see the first reaction from the Mexican president. What? According to what Vicente Galvez shows on Twitter, he shows this first image, along with images from Radio Formula and other national media that have been shared by journalists who were, by the way, in Coahuila. The president was in Coahuila while all of this was happening. And they ask her about this situation. They ask her, well, what does she think? What message is there for the people of Michoacan, of Jalisco? Well, for 9 states, but mainly for Michoacan and Jalisco. And she says the reaction was very... Well, the security cabinet is the one that will give the answer, so she didn't comment on that topic, so there's not much to talk about regarding that. Let's wait for more information to come out. What will draw attention right now, aside from the huge news that a trafficking leader has fallen like this person, is that we already made an initial report about this, especially because it was a breaking, urgent topic. We already filed an initial report about what's been happening. But as the day has gone on, well, it's been showing. For example, in Michoacan, there have been blockades in Michoacan and people have had to turn back. The same reaction from the United States is to warn United States citizens to be careful right now if they're in certain states of the country, to be careful where they go. Basically, that's it. There have been a lot of audio messages going around saying that on this highway or that something is happening. Obviously, people are warning each other, be careful here, be careful there. And, well, especially in the area where you move around, make sure to find out if there's any risk before going out. Especially in these 9 states that I'm going to mention right now. If there are other states, please let me know in the comments and we'll add them. But the list I have of states that would be, let's say, mainly affected by this problem. Let's see, here are the studies about what the United States alert says. Let's put up the image. Well, this is the embassy page from TravelGov, which we've already seen many times here because of armed conflicts around the world. There it is. That's the TravelGov account and the notice. The warning is for the following states, although it seems to me that some are missing here. Yes, for example, Colima, which isn't mentioned, but we know there are also problems there. The United States Embassy has already issued this warning. The book that assures United States citizens that there will be clashes, or that there are clashes, and that these attacks can be recorded. Due to the death of El Mencho, people in the following places are being asked to take shelter. This, I insist, this is not something from the Mexican government, but from the United States government about what is happening in Mexico. It says, Jalisco, including Puerto Vallarta, Chapala, and Guadalajara, in other words, all of Jalisco, but mainly those 3 places. Tamaulipas, including Reynosa, other municipalities, Michoacán, Guerrero, and Nuevo León. Nuevo León catches my attention because up until now, at least here where we are in Nuevo León, there hasn't been anything that we know of. There hasn't been anything. At least here. But yes, for example, other states where there have been problems are not mentioned. Well, this is the warning issued by the embassy. Travel governor. No, which depends. It depends over there on the United States Department of State. Right? Which are the other states, which are other places that could also be at risk, and that are reported, at least on social media. There are already reports of blockades in different places that aren't mentioned on that list. There you go. That's the information I have. Let's see if this gets confirmed. During the day, blockades have been reported, according to what's already being published in the national media. Vehicles have been set on fire in the following states: Jalisco, Michoacán, Colima, Guerrero, Aguascalientes, Guanajuato, Nayarit, Zacatecas, and Tamaulipas. That's 9 states. Nuevo León is not listed there, as you can see, at least in this report. No, but I insist, since this situation is kind of chaotic, at this point it's only been a few hours since this happened. I think, and my suggestion if you live in Mexico, is to stay informed. Stay informed. Observe, talk to your family, talk to people who live in other areas of the municipality where you used to go. How are things? Is everything calm or not? Well, perfect. Then you decide whether to go out or not, etc. But yes, there are many states. It's known that in Guanajuato there are serious problems. In Aguascalientes there are also some strong problems in certain areas of Aguascalientes, not to mention Nayarit, Zacatecas, Tamaulipas, Guerrero, not to mention Colima, Michoacán, Jalisco. Well, that's where it is. In fact, this individual, this Nemesio, is originally from Michoacán. And the cartel is called Jalisco New Generation Cartel. It obviously operates in Jalisco, although it also operates in other parts of the country and the world. So, that's what is known. We'll go into more detail about that information as it develops, but there are also other things happening in the world. So I'm not just going to focus on this, I'll talk about other matters too, but yes, it's a huge issue, isn't it? And I imagine, from what I'm seeing here, for example, with the people in Guadalajara, it's not a day to stay inside. It's a day to be calm, spend a little time at home and things like that, right? I think we already know that, don't we? If it's safe and I need to go out later, that's something. But yes, here in Orion, we'll have to check later on. Let's not expect this to be under control quickly. And on the other hand, that's a separate issue. For a while now, it was this person or that cartel who supposedly attacked Harfush. Many years ago, the current Secretary of Security of the country was attacked. Well, they left the truck full of bullet holes, not because it wasn't armored. I mean, it was, but he barely made it out alive. And later, they were also accused, and this is also a huge issue, of being the ones who tried to kill Ciro Gomez Leiva, a Mexican journalist who, by the way, was also in an armored truck. And he also managed to survive. To be clear, this group has been involved in many serious issues in the country. And the United States put a lot of pressure to go after that group. That one and others too, but it's one of the main ones. They move a lot. Methamphetamine and cocaine are the two things they move the most. In fact, look, with everything that's happened with this issue of attacking the boats, it was said within the United States that the winner of Trump's movement against Venezuela and all of this, was this person. So, Nemesio's business had skyrocketed. It had gone really well for him since Trump came in, because they were attacking operations that benefited him. Well, now it was his turn. It was that group's turn in the end. The bet that the United States is making is one they've repeated over and over again. It's not about Colombia, Venezuela, but rather a regional issue. Some media outlets speculate this is a joint operation between Mexico and the United States, but this can't be confirmed yet. Well, it sounds to me like it is, right? It's a joint operation, isn't it? That's what everyone here is assuming, although we'll have to wait for more details. And this, well, I think it's also going to give a push to try to go after other groups. Because that's probably the strongest group right now, maybe the most dangerous. But this is going to bring a reconfiguration, and these are the reconfigurations that create more risk for the public. Why? Because, well, wherever those movements happen, there could be operations or attacks between groups, and, well, it could be dangerous for certain areas. So be careful with that issue. Let's move on to other important matters. Stay tuned to what's happening, because the United States is issuing an alert. It's issuing an alert right now that Iran would be just weeks, 7 days away from enriching uranium, ready for nuclear weapons. At that level, at least that's what they're reporting today. Do you think it could be? Because at the end of this, there's no certainty, obviously, because it's not something Iran is going to announce unless you have inside intelligence, which is possible. Washington warns that Tehran could reactivate its nuclear capability in record time. The same United States Special Envoy for the Middle East, Steve Whitcomb, who is the one we have there on the screen, right? This individual, a personal friend of Trump, a real estate businessman with zero experience in diplomatic matters, but he is one of the most important figures in current United States diplomacy. He stated that Iran could be a week away from producing uranium material, according to the information in the statement. Obviously, this raises alarms and creates the idea that therefore the United States' perspective is to operate against the Ayatollah's regime. You and I here have witnessed those attacks that have taken place in Isfahan and other parts of Iran, but we have also been witnesses through satellites that have made it possible to observe how things have unfolded. They are the ones that have exploded with those planes, with those bombings, because these are attacks carried out so that all the underground facilities are destroyed. Well, from day one, after those operations, there was already talk about clearing debris. And afterwards, well, apparently it was the reconstruction of those facilities. At the same time, today, if these days have been full of demonstrations, today the Iranian demonstrations have overflowed. The regime seems like it's going to fall on its own, that it doesn't even need an armed conflict, but that who knows, at least that's what it looks like. Observe. See? Let's get into the details. No, what else? But there are maneuvers that the regime is hiding and that the United States is warning about. At least that's what they see, that in the plans there are possibilities that they want a war. I mean that there are possibilities that the regime, what it's asking for is that a conflict. That's why the way they negotiate, because a conflict, at least a moderate one, with the United States would suit them very well. The regime is organizing its military and political leadership, because they see that the probability of war is becoming more viable and that maybe it could even be convenient. The Islamic Republic of Iran is putting into action what they call a strategic survival plan. What should be done if suddenly many of Iran's current leaders fall? How can they quickly restructure and survive as a regime? The Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei, has already appointed Ailis as the highest operational authority for national security in case of war. Or even if he loses his life, the one who would take command would be Ali Larijani, this according to reports cited by the New York Times. The regime has already established formal mechanisms for succession and to avoid a power vacuum. High-ranking positions have been established that must have up to 4 separate replacements. So, does that mean that all the main leaders of Iran already have a clear succession plan for how the changes would happen? In case there is a power vacuum or an initial power vacuum? Larijani shifted the influence to President Masoud Pezeshkian, who in theory should be the one ready to take action. But no, it's not him, not even the president of the country, the Iranian president himself. Wouldn't he be the substitute for the Ayatollah? Meanwhile, Donald Trump is already taking it up again. It can't be ruled out that there could be a war. This, especially if the persistence on the issue of nuclear capability continues, a topic that is also being reiterated today. And now, let's move on to what's happening with the protests. Today, protests have been reported. Once again, flags from the Shah's era have started to appear. See? They started to reappear because for several days these kinds of flags hadn't been seen or were hardly seen, also due to the same repression. Bringing these flags is basically the equivalent of, well, risking your life, basically. I mean, protesting is already dangerous, but bringing that flag basically means you could get shot and there won't be any consequences for the person who shoots you. So that's extremely dangerous for Iranians. That's why these images are surprising. They're historic images. Another image that is surprising today is that 4 military helicopters. Let's see if we can hear it. Let's put this on the screen. All right. You can't hear it, but you can see helicopters in the background. They say that at least 4 Iranian military helicopters have been monitoring the situation in Tehran after there have been multiple protests at Iranian universities in Tehran, universities where protests have taken place today. And now soldiers can be seen surrounding the area. Well, this, which also looks a bit like what's happening in Mexico, is also happening in Iran. Different fires are being reported in various places, buildings, areas where apparently there are underground bunkers. Fires have been reported today, and that also draws attention. Multiple fires inside Iran. Well, here are more images. This is another image. Let me see if I can put it here. There it is. Multiple fires and thick smoke were reported in Paran in the province of Tehran. In addition, there have also been power outages in some cities. According to residents, they claim to have heard explosions before the fires. That also, draws attention today. Another image. This is also in Tehran, it says. Not here. There are several plumes of smoke. As you can see, it's not exactly clear what's happening. If they're part of the protests, if it's some other kind of movement, why are the explosions being heard? Here's another image. Also, this is another one of buildings, and there are plumes of smoke or whatever it is. The point is that these movements, these fires, no, they don't specify what it says. Fires are reported in Paran, according to unconfirmed reports. From one of them, there was a strong explosion, actually before the fire. That's also being talked about, and as you can see, the protests are still going on. Yes, the protests, people are trying to cover their faces, wearing masks, women using burqas, whatever they can to cover up and not be identified. This is inside the University of Tehran, the students singing and asking for the return of, it's not like that anymore, not Javi, now long live, Dasha says. Within the protest that is happening right now in Iran, right? It's also an important part of what's going on here. Here's another moment. Let's put it here. There it is. Let's listen to it.
Now it gives me luck. Yes, now it gives me luck. Now it gives me luck.
According to reports, those clashes are happening between students and people from the regime. Can you hear the pro-Iranians? Yes, I'm shouting, I won't say the words, but shouting very harsh things against the population. And then, people are also responding to them with what they want, right? And that's how all day long there have been more and more protests being reported. It's been very eventful for Iran. Is this it? Well, yes, multiple images of anti-government protests in different places, in areas, and above all, many universities, areas that are organizing themselves very well, in that sense. They are extremely angry after everything that has happened. And also, I imagine they're asking themselves, where is that promised help from Trump, which also didn't happen. And more images keep coming out from here. Here we show you more images from different places, from different angles, while people protesting, and more images. This is at the University of Tehran. So, a lot of people managed to connect. They're carrying this flag with the lion, yes, showing strength to the students and above all courage, not confronting, this regime. And there are more images, right? I mean, all day long, images have been coming in, especially of protests about, an issue that doesn't seem to have stopped. Hundreds of students, in some places even thousands, university students are demanding the return of Shah, at least temporarily. According to images shared by different students like Amir Gavir, among others, various social media accounts have been showing these expressions, which include the word freedom or the word, death. They also mention Jamenei, or, let's say a series of things have been commented on. In these protests, the situation is like that. At the same time, there are groups that are pro-regime who have been sent to confront these protests. and try to contain them a bit, right? So, well, that's also interesting. Today we're going to talk about other important matters, important ones. This phenomenon is impressive, very interesting, honestly. This is at Lake Baikal in Russia, where it shows how, well, the temperatures change, they move around there, breaking, let's say, the pieces of ice. And it starts to open up, it starts, well, to thaw this ice. As we get closer to spring, well, it's a very interesting phenomenon, and, well, there we go, we observe it among the interesting phenomena. Today, well, this lahar is being shown according to the reports. This is, let's see, this is the Guayana Putina volcano in Peru. It's volcanic mud. It would be volcanic mud. And debris moving toward the Tambo River, according to what's being reported about this lahar in this region, according to what Volcaholic says on his account. Well, that's also something that draws attention over there in Peru, right? Another issue that has also, well, there have been reactions to what happened in Ayabaca, Piura, in the region of Peru, where there have been heavy rains, strong storms, and so on. Well, they're reporting an intensification of these rains. Not only that, but there are also some floods. We'll be keeping an eye on it later to see what has happened over there, but it's obviously interesting to observe this. Our Peruvian friends will let us know how things are going. Sebastian Canabo has also been showing this image of a volcano. This one is called Sierra da Foco. No, this is a volcano that has been active. It's a volcano called Stromboli. Also on the small Italian island of Tirreno, and well, that activity also draws attention. It's not important, but it's interesting, at least very beautiful, honestly, the image of the volcanoes. And, well, without any risk, no risk at all for the population, according to the reports. Let's move on to other images from today. This image you see here, the before and after, what's on the roofs, let's see if we can take a look at it. That would be an attack that was carried out by Ukraine with the Flamingo missile, that missile that has been giving them a lot of results lately. And, well, they build it themselves so you don't depend on help from other places, right? The Flamingo missile went through the roof of a strategic factory inside Russia. The attack took place at the Boldisk plant, the facility where Skinder, Oresnik, and Topol M missiles are assembled, in that factory. Well, that factory was damaged. It was hit by this missile called Flamingo, right? That also draws attention today. Well, among these images that keep coming up, there's this image. This is here in Monterrey, Nuevo León. Here we can see operations by the state police. There are the operations, as we can observe. This is shown by Ray Elizalde, a journalist from NMAS here in Monterrey. On his Twitter account, he says the following. He posts: Fuerza Civil Operation Muralla at the border of Nuevo León and Tamaulipas after the violent reaction of blockades. In the alleged confrontation, he says the following: according to the police, this is the most that has happened here. Fuerza Civil is implementing Operation Muralla. They already have experience with this operation since, as I recall, he says the following: But they used to do that. They used to carry out Operation Morala, which are operations where they block all the highways and roads going to Tamaulipas or coming from Tamaulipas to prevent armed groups from entering here. So, up until now, well, they've worked well. We'll see. Let's hope they keep working. And, well, let's move on to other interesting matters as well.
Fíjense, en esta zona de Moscú se ha estado reportando una serie de explosiones. Ya hay incluso algunas imágenes como esta en la que aseguran que 8
Worked, we'll see. Let's hope it keeps working and, well, let's go. Interesting matters. There are the Siberia bathrooms from the Business Advisor. So right now, well,
que es un personaje pues importante para el régimen ruso, ¿no? Fueron al menos
it's worked well. We'll see. Let's hope it keeps working and let's move on to interesting matters.
Lindsey Graham, el senador Lindsey.
Right now, well,
Personaje, vamos a ponerlo aquí en pantalla. Este individuo, pues, ha estado declarando una serie de cosas muy interesantes. Él es un senador que
it's worked well. We'll see. Let's hope it keeps working and, well, let's move on to interesting matters.
de que no hagan nada con Irán. O sea, él dice que se tiene que hacer algo con Irán, que no se puede pues evitar el conflicto, que se tiene que poner la máxima presión, incluso con la posibilidad de atacar.
It's worked well. We'll see. Let's hope it keeps working. And, well, let's move on to interesting matters. Have you been one of the politicians close to Trump? More in favor of the conflict because there are other groups right now that are, well, working. We'll see. Let's hope it keeps working and, well, let's go. Interesting matters. Is it good for a regime like that to have nuclear weapons? Right now, we'll see. Let it keep working and, well,
Lo ideal, ¿no? Según
let's move on to interesting matters. Right now, it's working. Let it keep working and, well, let's go.
enredo y al riesgo asociado a una acción decisiva se están haciendo más fuertes.
Interesting matters. He says he feels great respect for President Trump. He is a man with vision for the future, and like all presidents, he will be responsible for his decisions in such important matters.
La historia será muy clara en cuanto a mi postura para bien o para mal. Él dice para bien o para mal. Él dice
working, we'll see. Let's hope it keeps working. And let's move on to interesting matters. So right now, well,
yo creo que ya están tomadas las decisiones, pero
it's been working well. We'll see. Let's hope it keeps working. Let's move on to some other interesting matters. To wrap up what's being discussed right now, because there's a discussion in theory about to be resolved about the nuclear issue. I mean, that's the last of the last ultimatums, so to speak. That's the final one. Supposedly, negotiators from the United States and Iran will be meeting. Right now, well, it's been working well. We'll see. Let's hope it keeps working and, well, let's move on to interesting matters.
última de las últimas ya.
Working. And well, let's move on to it's been working, and well, let's move on to matters.
En Cuba, ¿no? Es como una especie de embajador, ¿no? Es una especie de embajador que tienen allá en Cuba. Realmente él está, entiendo yo, realmente pues no es el embajador, sino es como un encargado de negocios. Y que, pues bueno.
It's been working well, we'll see. Let's hope it keeps working, and well, let's go. Interesting times now, working and functioning.
Y aquí es donde, pues bueno, parece que todo está en cierta forma hasta incluso apalabrado, porque hay...
Right now we'll see. Let's hope it keeps working, and well, let's go.
Se va a dar el cambio. Esto lo hacen.
It's been working well. We'll see. Let's hope it keeps working. Well, let's move on to interesting matters.
Mediante actos de repudio y presión política. Pero Washington confirmó.
It's been working well. Let's hope it keeps working, and well, let's move on to interesting matters. He also recently acknowledged that his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, right now,
alcanzar un acuerdo en medio de toda esta
working. Let's go. Interesting. By the way, there is also a reaction to what's happening over there in Guadalajara, in Jalisco, not in Guadalajara, in Puerto Vallarta. According to what I'm being told, there might be some movement in a prison. Right now it's working, it keeps working, and well, let's move on to other matters.
Todo va a estar, yo creo que todo el día, ¿no? Vamos a estar aquí con ese tema. Vamos a estar platicando de esto. Miren, aquí está ya el reconocimiento.
Interesting ones. The Mexican Secretary of Defense published a statement about the operation in Tapalpa, Jalisco, to arrest Ruben N., also known as El Mencho. It says that special forces from the Army, Air Force aircraft, and the Immediate Reaction Special Force of the National Guard took part. It says that special forces from the Army participated and that during the operation, Sedena also reported that its personnel were attacked and repelled the aggression. The Secretariat. 3 people who were seriously injured were eliminated at the scene and died during air transport to Mexico City. These 3, it says that special forces from the Army participated, aircraft from the Special Immediate Air Unit of the Guard. It says that special forces from the Army participated, aircraft from the Air Unit, and the Immediate Special Force of the National Guard. To Jalisco to reinforce security. So, Jalisco will be reinforced, the whole state will be reinforced, and possibly other states will be as well, he says. Special Forces, aircraft, and Immediate Response Special Force. He says that Special Forces, Army, and Special Air aircraft participated.
Que va a haber al rato seguramente algún comunicado también.
Immediate response, the Security Cabinet Guard. So, well, look, CVS is already reporting. CVS reports that the United States played a role in the operation that eliminated this figure from the cartel, it says.
Dice CBS que sí hubo una participación.
It says that Special Forces participated, Special Forces from the Air Force and the Immediate Response Special Force participated. Well, I think that's it. Have they said anything yet about what happened with the airport? If that's it, I hope so, let's hope so, and we'll keep talking about it in a moment. Let's move on to other points, to other important matters as well. He says that Special Forces from the Army participated, Immediate Special Air aircraft, and the National Guard.
Está, ¿no?
He says that Special Forces from the Army participated, air aircraft, and the Immediate Special Force. Here is part of this announcement that is being given. That Special Forces participated, aircraft special.
Ha habido algunos bloqueos. Se fijan acá en Nuevo León no hay ni uno.
Immediate response, the National Guard too. He says more cases have been reported in the country's center, especially in the west. Special Army units participated, aircraft, Immediate Special Force. Let's see if that's the case. He says Special Forces, Force units, and Immediate Air Support aircraft participated. Immediate response from the Guard. He says that Air Force aircraft and the National Guard Special Reaction Force participated. From what Travel COP said, the one from the United States Embassy Secretary of State, who makes these kinds of reports, let's move on to other topics. They're reporting to us here, says Cynthia. Cheers, Cynthia. How have you been? They say Reynosa. They blocked many places, even between neighborhoods, and many businesses closed, burned buses, cars with spike strips. She says, look, tremendous, says Tapati. I saw a video of a shootout inside an airport in Guadalajara. Yeah, well, there are several videos from the airport, says Pepe and Vivo. Do you think Federación Internacional de Fútbol Association will take the World Cup away from Mexico? No? Well, I don't think so. I hope not. Let's see what happens. It's going to depend on how people react in the next 48 hours. If there is no certainty about security in one of those, well, a decision will be made then. A big one. If you haven't seen the list of demands from Federación Internacional de Fútbol Association, it's a very tough list of demands. So if they're not met, well, it could happen. But I hope it works out, and there's a lot of pressure. That's why they're also immediately sending reinforcements to Jalisco. I think the situation will be quickly under control. But we'll see. Let's wait and see what happens. He's obviously a figure, let's say, from the top level of the cartel groups, he says. In Tijuana, he says it's not on the map. Tijuana is not there. Tijuana is not there. I haven't seen anything about Baja California so far. I don't know if Ejides is watching us, but up to now, in all the reports I've read, I haven't seen anything. And today, If they operate over there, I mean, that cartel operates there now, or at least from what I understand, no, at least not, I mean, it's present, at least over there, right? Look here, let's see if we can get it. Look, here's the map of where they are, where that cartel operates in Mexico. Here it is divided by cartels. And the one on the top left, that's the cartel attacked today. The Jalisco New Generation cartel is in. It has a presence, it's not a main operation, but it has a presence in Baja California, Chihuahua, Coahuila, Nuevo León, Tamaulipas. I mean, but the stronghold of that cartel is Jalisco, Michoacán, Colima. Warning the waves. Wow, I'm not sure if also, I think in Oaxaca, and if I'm not seeing wrong here, let's see. Let's go to the map because now I'm lost. Let's go to the map of Mexico, and based on this, it would be Michoacán and Guanajuato. It would be Michoacán, Guanajuato, Jalisco, right? Jalisco would also be another one of the states mentioned, and apparently, let's see, it's Guerrero too. Apparently, it's Guerrero too. Well, the point is that these are groups where it's never really clear in the end exactly how far their operations go. It's clear some groups have a stronger presence in certain states than others, right? And these are a group that is allied with other important groups like the Sinaloa cartel in Sinaloa, obviously, and in that part of the Northeast, right? So, well, yes, that's right. I know they operate in other states, but it's not like they lead the whole thing. For example, here in Nuevo León, well, it shows that they do operate, but it doesn't mean they dominate. No, they're more involved in Tamaulipas, according to what is shown. Let's see what happens, not like this. On one hand, for a while now, people in Mexico have been asking for something to be done. You also know that when things are done, when moves are made, there are also reactions, obviously. So hopefully it will be done with enough intelligence. First, to strengthen security. And second, so that it decreases. I mean, I wouldn't say disappear, because that's something that's already clear to me. Not that it's impossible, but it's unlikely to happen. But at least so they don't have so much power, not these kinds of groups over the country and over, well, the people, right? Because suddenly there are areas where, well, you can't even open a business or anything because they're charging you protection money and doing a bunch of things to you, he says. Here's the report from the airport, the Guadalajara International Airport. Let's read the statement. No, this is the statement. Let's see if we can see it. The official statement from the airport, it says, Guadalajara, Jalisco, February 22, 2026, due to the events that have taken place. Hold on, give me a moment. Let me put it up here on the screen. I'll put the whole thing so you can read it too, okay? All right, here is the official statement about the current situation at the airports in Jalisco. Guadalajara, Jalisco, February 22, 2026. Due to the events that have occurred in different parts of the state of Jalisco. Grupo Aeroportuario del Pacífico. Grupo Aeroportuario del Pacífico informs the airport community and the general public. Guadalajara International Airport is operating normally today, Sunday, February 22, 2026, without cancellations or disruptions. Wait, hold on. Let's see this. Here it says there are no disruptions to its operations. It says here, let's scroll down here. There it is. No disruptions to its air operations. The situations reported in various areas of the state do not affect the internal operation of the airport terminal or the safety inside the facilities. The airport terminal is under the protection of members of the National Guard and the Secretariat of Defense, SEDENA. And as part of ongoing coordination efforts, it's important to clarify that no incidents have been reported inside the facilities and there is no risk to passengers, staff, or visitors. The information and material circulating on social media do not correspond to risk situations inside the terminals, but rather to panic among passengers, which has created perceptions that do not reflect the real situation at the airports. We urge passengers and users to remain calm and follow the instructions of the group staff at all times. Pacific Airport recommends that passengers at Guadalajara Airport stay in contact with their airlines to be informed of any changes to their itinerary. Well, so basically, in short, what they're saying is that the situation didn't happen inside the airport, it happened outside the airport. That's what, at least to me, this statement seems to imply, right? And this statement from Guadalajara International Airport, let's take a look. The airport? International Airport. Yes. I'll put it directly into the account. A journalist shared that, but let's put it directly into the account. To see the comments, to see people's comments, because sometimes suddenly they show images or photos of what's really happening. Look, it says, okay, that was this post. That official statement was made an hour ago inside the airport, or rather from the airport's account. Here it is, there's the statement we just read, and let's go to the comments. Let's see what people are saying. It says, normality, someone from Aeronoticias asks here, it says, is normality having passengers getting off the plane outside the terminal among patrol cars and the National Guard and external blockades? The person asks. So if that's normality and it shows the map of the planes and how they're being placed in other unusual areas for flights, it doesn't say anything else. Don't fall for the official misinformation. There is technical operability, but normal security conditions are not present, so take your precautions. That's at least what Aeronoticias says, which talks about emergencies and news of that kind, right? Well, that's what they mention. It's an account, well, from aviation in Venezuela, but it shows these images, let me see if I can put them here, where it says, well, they're landing and it's like people are supposedly coming out from other terminals, but, well, it's not an account from here, so let's see if there's any other comment. It says in the middle, they're broadcasting from the Guadalajara airport and nothing has happened, says Armando. Yeah, I mean, here Armando says that everything is calm. They're broadcasting from the airport and everything is calm right now, supposedly. So, well, that's good. If that's the case, that's great. Really great. Here, supposedly that's true, but we would have to see if it can be confirmed, he says. But he says there are people saying that flights are being diverted on FlyRadar. Let's see. Let's check FlyRadar. Let's see if it's true that there are diversions from Guadalajara Airport and General de Jalisco. There are diversions to other states, supposedly. Honestly, I find it hard to believe, but let's see. Let's see what happens, right? Let's see. Let's wait for the page to load. There it is, see? Well, look, I don't know how typical this is, but there are a few flights. It's curious to me, right? Let's move away a little. These are the current flights in Guadalajara for this area. No, thank you. These are the flights there are. This one is in progress. It already took off. This one is coming from Hermosillo. It was going to arrive in Guadalajara, and there is no interruption. I mean, it's going fine. And that's it. That's all. I don't see anything else. I don't know how common that number of flights is. It seems like very few to me, right? This is the only plane I see landing in Guadalajara. I don't see any others. What do you guys think? But really, only someone who's in the area, someone who works there, could say how typical that would be. Here's another airport. This one departs from Vallarta, and Guadalajara is operating smoothly too. It was. This one is from San Jose del Cabo. It goes from San Jose del Cabo to Guadalajara, but it also doesn't show or indicate here, at least, any diversion. It's going there. Well, this is also part of what happens, and it's normal to a certain extent for there to be a bit of panic. It's also logical. I mean, if suddenly that whole wave happens, well, you're at the airport, you hear something fall, or maybe there really was something outside, I don't know. And, well, I would find it very difficult for something to happen at an airport because they're very well guarded. Anyone who has been to the Guadalajara airport, Mexico City, Monterrey, I mean, the National Guard and Sedena are there, not just at the airport, but at several points. I mean, it would be very complicated for me. It would be very, very, very difficult for something like that to happen. Honestly, no. Those who have seen this, anyone who has traveled, well, they realize what the security is like. Honestly, I can't imagine something like that. Not this, and so far what we have seen is people running. That's what we've seen so far. I haven't seen, at least up to now. I don't know if you guys have any footage with, I don't know, people shooting or whatever. There are also accounts here, that, well, are looking for that, basically, right? Because the obviously I didn't mention it like that because it didn't seem right to me at all. Correcto. There have been a lot of images circulating of people running, but people were saying it, this account was saying, are they taking the airport? Which one? Are they taking the airport or not? It's not like that either. I don't know if it's true, but well, it's part of, let's say, this hysteria, possibly, that people are getting into. Now, I insist, things are happening in the sense that there really are highways, there really are streets, there really are areas that are blocked, that these groups have tried to block. So yes, be careful, obviously. And in any case, if you're going to go out, talk to your airline and ask if everything is normal. That's it, right? If you have a trip planned or something similar, that would be ideal too. Let's go to the comments. It says, let's see, it says here, there will be time later to blame the rest. It says, if he wins, he's also a neighbor of the Yankees. Is he going? See? In the country with 15 drug cartels and armored trucks? No? Well, then the problem started at home. First internal cleanup, it says. Clonus says, no, but the Guadalajara airport is private. It's not like the Aeropuerto Internacional de la Ciudad de Mexico, he says. Greetings, Tapatia. Very good. Greetings. Yes, private. No, there has to be security. Well, at least what there should be here as well. The one here is private, but it's full of security, right? I mean, come on. It's for national security. They have to have it, and they have contracts, right? In order to operate in any area, they have to have security from the state, right? Otherwise, no matter how private it is. Greetings, Tapatia. How have you been? Let's see what the president says, since she's been criticizing ever since Calderon began fighting the narcos. Let's see how people react. Greetings, Lily, he says. Yeah, they owed him that one. Harfush. They went to shoot him up a few years ago near my house, he says near your house, right? Yeah, it was intense. And it's always been said that it was that cartel, right? So that's why now the story is, do you remember that moment? Well, you know how stories take turns, right? Then, well, that's a huge twist. Greetings, Verderi. A big shout out to the whole Rublos community. How have you been? Very good, Mercedes, he says. He says, you can see my comment at the start of the chat. We were leaving when neighbors told us a car was set on fire at the Tijuana beach exit. So you couldn't go in or out. I mean, there was activity over there. Let me see if I can find your comment, or if you can post it again for me. That would be ideal, because if not, it's going to be kind of hard to find it, says Claudia. Guadarrama is an international news channel. That's what it covers if you're interested. Claudia is already talking if she regrets it making that kind of mistake. No, it's an international news channel, she says. I don't think Russia is relevant for anything. Same with Latin America. The topics about Israel will be more of the same every day, she says. Claudio, how are you, Claudio? Claudio Waldelman. Look, very interesting, because it's like, I don't know, joining a channel. Let's say a rock music channel, right? And say, hey man, why isn't there any salsa music here? Why isn't there more salsa? I don't know. Well, everyone is going to say, hey, do you agree that this is a rock music channel? Here, well, in any case, whatever resembles rock, we're going to see it here too, my friend. I mean, with all due respect, but this is an international news channel. In fact, we're talking about this news from Mexico because it's international news. Otherwise, we wouldn't even mention it. I mean, that's because that's what this channel is, right? I mean, and that's what you'll always find on this channel. It's an international news channel. Our audience, our community is not just from Mexico, it's a Hispanic community, or even not necessarily Hispanic. There are people who speak Portuguese, English, and some who don't contact us. So they're interested in international topics. It's very curious, but it's also very rare because it does happen a lot, doesn't it? You go into a cooking channel and start asking about carpentry tutorials. Well, that's kind of tough, man. It's really tough. The topic. There's too much variety in the news, just like that. A quick list. Sports, entertainment, crime news, not in our case, international topics, anything international, anything that's relevant in the international scene, you'll see it here. What's about the planet? What's about science? What's about geopolitics? Anything that's international news, we talk about it here. Even entertainment, if it's something that's important enough on an international level, we'll talk about it here, right? But it's impossible to please everyone, all those who complain in the chat. Good point, Verderi, good point, but well, I don't mind not answering because sometimes there's confusion, and yes, well, as much as possible, I answer, right, Pepe? It says there's a YouTube channel that says, they eliminate Mencho. Yes, we talked about it here, Karim. We've already made 2 videos about the topic. Yes, they've already eliminated him. Yes, that's already confirmed. Exactly, Karim. Greetings, how have you been? Magus, greetings, very good. Rublog says, I hope they stop the PG, he says. MGU, how are you? MGU, greetings also to Adriana. He says the world is upside down, a lot of violence. Well, look, what you're usually going to see in the news is that, what we usually see in the news are the challenges. Yes, we do bring, at least here we try to bring some positive news. But really what you're going to see and what the news is about is the challenge, the problematic part. But it's not that there's a lot of news about violence. It's just that, well, there always has been. It's just that now we find out about how things happen in the world, right? And yeah, suddenly, if that's all you see, then that's how you're going to see it. That's your perspective, right? That's why I suggest we try to balance ourselves, right? And we even try here in the reports to bring you information about other things, not just news, but interesting and scientific topics. But the important thing is the challenge. It's not the hardest or most complicated part, right? This happens everywhere, doesn't it? And, well, yes, it does. Best regards. Thank you very much, Francisco Arce. Thank you so much for your comment, Francisco. A big greeting to you, and I hope you have an excellent weekend. Aside from all this, from these challenges, as you mentioned, don't let them get you down, right? I think it's better to know they're not there, and I hope violence doesn't affect ordinary people who go out. That's all. Really, that the cartel groups truly be careful with the population. Also, obviously, that government operations be as precise as possible against the groups, but not against the population. Obviously, not this. Thank you very much, Angel Murillo. Yes, hopefully, right? A Grammy wouldn't be bad to lighten things up, right? Because sometimes it really is. It's a topic. It's not a topic. It's not that easy to be here every day. The truth is, I've really enjoyed being able to comment, being able to communicate, and all of that is great, but it's also complicated, right? So, well, thank you very much. Honestly, there are a lot of comments, huh? Look, later on we have Hoy Era. You know that on Sundays we try to bring you strange news, unusual news, things from around the planet, other things. No, also to take a look at other topics for a bit. But today the day started off really intense, really tough, so I have several notes pending. There. We'll talk about it later, and obviously whatever happens during the day, we'll discuss it as we go. Have an excellent weekend. We went back home because of the neighborhood warning, and I asked you if Jerez knew anything. But I think, yes, we're in a state of panic, and it's just because of what just happened in the United States. A co-worker here in San Isidro. Let's hear what they're telling us here in Mercedes. What happened in Mercedes? Tell us about it. Remember, you can leave us an audio message. I know it's not a habit yet. I still don't know what to do to get the community to participate more with audio. That would be great. Soon we'll have the option to call the channel, but I don't know if it's going to be a regular phone call. because I'd like it not to be just from here, from Mexico, but from anywhere. For people to call or send us an audio message, but not everyone uses Telegram, right? So, well, we're already setting everything up here so that when the audio or call comes in during the... I'm not sure if we'll have audio at the end of the show or later, but it would be great to hear your comments about your experiences or what's happening in your area. Thank you very much, Adriana Tapatia. Take care. Everyone who is in a higher risk area, let's say, don't wait until everything is calm, he says. Hey, is Pepe in vivo? Question from yesterday. He says yesterday he was dying from the heat and today he's dying from the cold. Hey, and no, and it goes from here to today, not tomorrow. A pretty interesting temperature change for the country, as we saw yesterday. I mean, while they're telling us, let's check out Mercedes' comment. Look, this is how it is right now. Well, that's today. We're not going to get closer. Have you already felt the cold in Nuevo Leon? Actually, if you notice, I'm already wearing a jacket, right? Yesterday it was still warm, but today, well, look, that's the cold that's coming in. But look, tonight it's going to be even more intense, especially for Mexico City. Let's check if you have it. I don't think so. Move a little more. There it is. About 6 degrees tonight, 6 degrees Celsius in Mexico City and a little further north. No, we can leave now, even if we go here to Monterrey, not to the south of Monterrey. Almost 1 degree right in the city of Monterrey, about 10 or 11 degrees tonight, so it's going to be cold, and then tomorrow night. More or less the same, right? And the day after tomorrow, it starts to get better, 25, it gets much better, and so on, but overall, it's kind of cool, it's like a farewell. I imagine it's the end of winter because of that storm that came towards esta zona. Estados Unidos trae much cold, but there you're talking about minus 27 degrees, right? For that area between Canada and the eastern United States, she says. Mercedes says. What happened? No problem on the other side? It seemed normal, but we got scared by the fire. I mean, yeah, it's better not to get into those situations. Suddenly there will be a saturation of images and things. Maybe it could cause a problem there, she says. Locked in, Pepe says they've already notified my daughter's work not to attend. Look, it depends on where you live. It depends on where you are. Or is the situation worse right now? Guadalajara, Michoacán, no, clearly not. Well, Tamaulipas is specifically Reynosa, no. So let's go section by section, right? And take care, greetings, hope you're all well, he says. Here in Michoacán, they're burning the banks. Well, fair, says user, that's intense. User, that's a message. Clearly, a message there. Well, that's something. Let's go. We'll be back soon with more topics. Today's events are important. Thank you. See you later.